Hello again, and welcome to Southeastern 14's preview of Texas A&M and Nebraska in the NCAA tournament. Nebraska has never won an NCAA tournament game. Can that change? Got a good matchup here, an exciting one to talk about. You can catch it 5:50 Central Time on Friday before we talk about it. Reminder, we are brought to you by BetOnline. The tournament's here. BetOnline is your bracket headquarters for the season with the best bracket contest out there. And odds, lines, and info on every game, every round right up into the national championship. You can access the most up-to-the-minute wagering information anytime from your desktop or mobile devices, even track the bracket in real time all the way through the tournament. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on all the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE. That is BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Gentlemen, we saw Texas A&M up close in Nashville last week, courtside at the SEC tournament. Very impressive run for the Aggies. I feel like the guards are playing really well. We've talked about Wade Taylor all season, not having help. Well, Manny Obaseki has really stepped up and given the Aggies some things there. And Tyrese Radford, healthier than he was early in the season. So the Aggies debatably playing their best ball going into the tournament. But, boy, we got an interesting matchup here with Nebraska. And we talk about the Christmas specials on Ken Palm. That's when you look at the matchup, and there's red and green all over the place. Max Barr, you said before the show, this is a matchup between one team that wants to do one thing and another team that wants to do another thing. And I'm going to have you unpack some of the more interesting things of the matchup here.
Yeah, I like this matchup because it's contrasting styles, which always makes for a fun matchup. When you look at Texas A&M, you know what their strength is. We've been saying it all year. They're going to crush the boards. And as Blake will get into, I feel like a little bit more, this is not a good rebounding team out of Nebraska. But on the flip side, this is a Nebraska team that, man, do they chuck it from three. Early and often. Number one 3-point rate in the Big Ten. Little bit of PTSD from Penn State last year. You know what happened when Texas A&M ran to a high 3-point rate team from the Big Ten. So that worries me a little bit also. But Nebraska is a sneaky good defensive team also. When you filter Bart Torvik 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, doesn't really matter. This last 30 days or so, Nebraska's in a top 10 defense in the nation. They have a very good interior defense. They're number one in the Big Ten in 2-point percentage defense. So I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, does Nebraska make their shots? Can they shoot over Texas A&M? And then can Texas A&M hit the glass like they like to? Can they rack up those offensive rebounds with Andy Garcia and Washington, Coleman, and whatnot? I think it's pretty cut and dry. These two teams want to do what they stick to. What do you think, Blake?
Well, here's what I think. Before I make my pick, I'd love to know the referee assignments for this game. Because if Texas A&M is not getting a friendly whistle, we know how much we always talk about this team getting to the free throw line, one of the best in the country in terms of just like they want to get to the line. And I think that's important because, like you said, Nebraska's defense is better now, and how they defend will be important against this team, knowing that they are going to try to attack, knowing that A&M is one of the worst three-point shooting teams out there. They've improved in that because they've had a couple of those, better performances recently. But I think it's important because I do think, again, knowing how A&M is going to play, I think it's something that definitely stands out. But I will also kind of lead with this, though. The one theme we always talk about is what wins in March, and that is guard play. And Texas A&M has two of the better guards, I think, in this tournament with Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford. When those guys are playing at their best, there's no guarantee that both will be on the same day. But if they are, they can be as good as anybody. And so I think you can put a little bit more trust into that with A&M heading into this tournament, despite the numbers we point out all year that are not great efficiency-wise. And something else, what a difference there is in rebounding between these two teams. And I think that could be, it could be as simple as that. Like Max said, it could be as simple as two things. Two teams will want to win a completely different way, and the fact that one team is significantly better than the other when it comes to rebounding the ball. If you're a Nebraska fan watching, what we said about A&M all year long is sometimes their best offense could literally be throwing it off the backboard and just getting offensive rebounds, and that's all they have to do. And so because they're so good at that, that would worry me a little bit here, because also it's a neutral court game, and you're already talking about a team that percentage-wise does not shoot it well. You would expect that some teams just aren't going to shoot as well in neutral court environments, adjusting, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think that could wind up being the biggest part of this, but it is also the fact to where Max said it. You go back to last year, you get a team that can shoot the three well. We saw what happened. I mean, it was just boom, 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 and the game was over. And so A&M playing from behind is something that would worry me a little bit here too in this matchup. I know they've won games from behind before, but this is the one where I'm like, okay, they
because
probably
of the shooting?
need, yes, because of that. And so it may be easier to definitely kind of make this the kind of game you want it to be early on, rather than getting the barrage of three-pointers on the other side and then falling behind, having to shoot your way back into it. That's just not the formula we've seen that works for Texas A&M.
Yeah, Blake, you made an interesting point. Last year, A&M got an awful matchup with Penn State, which just shot three-pointers, connected on them at a high rate and shot a lot of them. That's not quite what this Nebraska team is. I think they are, 70-something in three-point percentage. What is it, 74th? No, what they do have is they launch it from a lot of places. You've got, what is it? 6-7 guys who've launched, who've hit 15 or more. So there's that. This is kind of a balanced team where a lot of guys shoot it really well. I don't know that there's a superstar on this team. Bryce Williams might have an argument there with that. It probably does. But yeah, this is a team where, God, this is such a weird matchup because of contrast of styles. But yeah, I think it's going to come down to, can A&M's guards just keep carrying the team like they've done so far?
Yeah, I am fascinated with this matchup, because out of all of the ones that we've broken down, I feel like this one is, I know what we're gonna get from each team. I feel like I know the general game plan for each team. And as good as Nebraska has been lately, if you go to Evan Maya, another guy that does some great stuff for the tournament, the recent starting five that Buzz Williams has been going to, the one with Taylor and Radford, of course, but then with Obaseki at the 3, and then with Andy Garcia and Solo Washington instead of Henry Coleman, that's one of the top 20 most efficient 5-man lineups in the nation right now. So they've really, and we saw it firsthand with Obaseki out there. I mean, sometimes if nothing's there, these guys will just launch themselves at the rim, hoping for a finish or a foul. I mean, just relentless attacking. And Nebraska doesn't really have that stout rim protection. One last thing that I'm kind of seeing here that's interesting, the VSiN betting splits on this is the widest margin of any SEC game in the first round. The spread actually opened up at 3. It was Texas A&M +3, Nebraska -3. That got hammered down to 1 immediately. There's 85% of the total handle on Texas A&M. There's just that angle also. Sometimes you want to follow the early money, that wherever it pushes the spread initially, the early money is all over Texas A&M here. This thing got hammered down from 3 to 1. It's not an end-all be-all. It's just another angle that kind of supports an A&M backing, I guess.
Well, if you're an A&M fan too, let me tell you this: you better hope you stay an underdog, because here's why. From the Action Network, Buzz Williams, worst of active head coaches in this tournament, minimum 10 games coaching in the tournament. He is second worst against the spread, 3-7-1 against the spread as a favorite. So you better hope Nebraska needs to stay that 1-point favorite if you're an A&M fan. So, you're just playing the numbers. So that's at least something you want to throw out there. So.
Yep.
This game just, and really this A&M team just twists me into a pretzel. And the matchup does. And this team does. Like, if you watched it, they're maddening, because let's review And I'm going to use this as a lead-in into my pick, okay? Let's review an A&M season, okay? And I think this sums up in a nutshell why I'm afraid to go out on a limb either way for this team, okay? February the 10th, A&M beats Tennessee 85-69. Tennessee was rolling. Came into College Station and just what happened there defied explanation. A&M shot better than it shot all season. So you're like, this team's won 3 in a row. Here we go. This is the team that a lot of us picked to win the conference, and it's going to show up. So what happens next? It goes to Vanderbilt and gets beat at the buzzer against an awful team. That's the first in a 5-game losing streak. Just when we had given up on the Aggies, they go out and they win 5 straight, culminating with losing to Florida in the tournament. And the KenPom page, it's the most inexplicable thing that you've ever seen, because let's break down the offense, okay? 353rd in three-point percentage, 301st in two-point percentage, 234th in free throw percentage. How in the world does that add up to the number 31 offense in the country? Well, the main explanation is offensive rebounds, and it doesn't turn the ball over. I still wouldn't think it would add up to that kind of number, but it does. And that is A&M in a nutshell. Just when you think this team's weaknesses are going to get it, what ends up happening is it's got veteran guards in Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford. They're playing the best ball they played. They played a ton of ball. Now, Nebraska's got a lot of experience too. But I'm going to ride with a gut feeling that these guys just seem to rise to the occasion. The math doesn't always make sense. I'm going A&M to win this one. Not a super high degree of confidence, but don't be surprised if the Aggies get this one and maybe one more after that.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Chris, you've been talking about that all week. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. I'm going to go A&M. I'm going to follow that early money, and I'm going to take A&M. I think this is why. If Nebraska wins, it's because they're gonna beat them from 3. If A&M wins, it's because they're gonna out-rebound them to death. What is more reliable in my eyes? For me, it's the rebounding. I'm gonna trust that. It's game in, game out. I'm gonna trust the rebounding, follow the early money, take an A&M. But man, I will say this is an 8-9 that it really has stumped me, because Nebraska's been playing some good basketball over the past month of the season.
I think this is the best 8-9 matchup in the tournament. I think that these two teams, again, because of the differences in styles, everything we've said, but the one thing I would definitely point out, Chris alluded to it a little bit, every time A&M has been in a spot where they've had to win over the past 3 weeks now, they've won it. They didn't have to beat Florida. They had to beat Kentucky probably to feel like they were for sure in, and they did it. They won 5 straight games, Georgia, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Kentucky, knowing that all those games were essentially must-wins. And let's keep in mind, too, don't forget, they were up 18 on Florida in that game in the first half. And so, then they just got Florida, who just got hot, right? Which Nebraska can certainly do. But I have changed my tune on this game. Initially, I was going to pick Nebraska, but this is why we go deeper beyond the gut bracket and all this other stuff that we have fun with. And I just think this is a decent matchup for Texas A&M based on the discrepancy in rebounding numbers. It's what they like to do. I'm going to pick the Aggies as well.
Nebraska still yet to win an NCAA tournament game. Are they the only Power 5 team, Blake, that's never won an NCAA tournament game?
Chris, if you think I have the answer to that question right now.
Well, you're our basketball brain here. I thought you might.
All right, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to stay on the video. I'm going to look up all Power Conference. I'm just kidding. I couldn't.
South Florida's never won one, but they're no longer Power 5. So anyway, the list is short. We'll see if Nebraska joins it. Anyway, we will be here to recap it. Whatever happens, best way to get that, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, enable your notifications. For Max Barr and Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.